6th. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pro Tour Talk with Steve Dodge. I'm Steve Dodge, and I'm happy to have you here. Today is April 25th, 2018. Tomorrow is day one of the Glass Blown Open. If you're listening to this on the podcast, then I have probably already played my first round at the Glass Blown Open. I think it's my first PDGA event that I've played in over a year and a half. So if you're in the area, probably want to come out later in the day so you don't have to watch me play. Anyway, I'm actually very excited to be able to play, and it's going to be pretty darn fun. So with the Glass Blown Open happening, we're going to do we got something special going on for you all today. The big thing is, thank you all very much for all of the questions that you've submitted through dgpt.com/AMA and on the Facebook page and Instagram as well. But I'm going to basically go through those questions and just encourage you to continue to ask those questions. A couple of those questions are actually going to be topics that we talk about on future shows because there's a lot more in depth, and in at least one case, I don't really have an opinion yet, and I want to bring a couple people into the conversation, have that conversation, and then hopefully develop an opinion. But so dgpt.com, that's our website, /AMA, which I think stands for questions that we want to know the answers to. So the first question, what do you think of spectators in the fairways? And then the person goes on to say, seems like a distraction in many ways as a player and viewer. I feel seeing spectators in a direct line of the hole or a couple of guys jumping out of a bush because they nearly get hit by a disc comes off as unorganized. Or is it a unique part of the sport? Just an observation, not a complaint. Keep up the good work. First of all, thank you very much. Use the sandwich technique. Went ahead and finished off on a positive note so that I don't feel like I'm being attacked. Always a good idea when asking a question. I would say it might be a unique part of the sport right now, but hopefully it will not continue to be so as we get more and more organized. The two events where spectators were potentially involved at the Memorial, there was a water bottle. The water bottle was 8 to 10 feet out of bounds when it was hit. In my opinion, the spectators were a totally appropriate distance back, and one spectator, when seeing the disc coming towards them, all the spectators did the right thing and moved back. One person forgot to pick up their water bottle as they moved back. I don't know if I would have remembered to pick up my water bottle as a disc is flying at me. I would have just said, hey, I need to move back. And that's an unfortunate circumstance, but I think those spectators were in a totally appropriate place. The other place that spectators came into effect was at the Waco Annual Charity Open presented by Dynamic Discs. And at that event, the spectators, again, I think were an appropriate distance back. If Nate had any idea that he was going to throw the disc over there, he would have clearly asked the spectators to move. So in those two instances, I think the spectators were in an absolutely appropriate place. The question specifically is, what do you think of spectators in the fairways? I think spectators in a fairway is a bad idea. I think spectators standing 8 to 10 feet behind the OB line is absolutely appropriate. And if the OB line isn't going to come into play, then right behind the OB line is a perfectly appropriate place to be. So this is something that is happening in our sport as we get more spectators. It's something that we will learn to control better as we grow, and we will continue to do so. One thing that we have done over the past month is have conversations with tournament directors, and we've actually created an organizational document about expectations for the people for crowd control, the people that hold the tape. So now we actually are spelling out what those expectations are, because it's becoming needed, and that's kind of the whole goal. The second question, I think I'm going to go ahead and say this needs to be a show unto itself. It's a fantastic, it's a very good leading question. And I genuinely don't know the answer because there's two sides and they're both correct. And I don't know what you do in a situation like this. And the question is, should we use video replay? It seems like if we have evidence to get a call right, we should use it. I will agree with that entirely. It seems like if we have video evidence, we should use it. And in my opinion, players should be allowed to, for example, take photographs of discs that are questionable whether they're inbounds or not. Right now, according to PDGA rules, that's not allowed. I think that absolutely should be allowed. And the counter to that point and to the use of video evidence is not all cards are being videotaped. So that's a valid point for example, a foot fault. Like we've had a couple of sizable foot faults that have been caught on video, and but if that was on a different card, it wouldn't have been caught. So, however, the concept of taking a picture of a disc that's out of bounds, it seems to me like basically every card at this point has some sort of camera or smartphone and can take that picture. So it actually is a fair and level playing field regarding taking a picture to determine if a disc is in or out. So when you bring it back to the tournament director and discuss your provisional, he or she can make an educated decision as opposed to just hearing people's interpretation of where the disc was. So in regards to a disc being out of bounds, in my opinion, absolutely, that is something that we should do. In regards to video evidence, I see both sides of this. Number one, it's not fair to all of the competitors because not everybody has video evidence. Number two, if we have video evidence, we might as well use it. So I'm going to go ahead and make a note, and that's going to be one of our episodes in the future. That's a fantastic conversation. Thank you for that question. Question number 3, do you think you'll start tracking the success of the companies that sponsor the players? It would be interesting to see at the end of the year how the disc companies fared against each other. Maybe a point system where a top 10 finish awards points towards your company. I will go ahead and say that Pro Tour points, which matter, in fact, do track that information. All you have to know is who is sponsored by which company. Someone, I think Miles was telling me earlier tonight that he heard on Ultiworld that this is something that they are actually thinking about doing. And I would absolutely encourage them to do this. These players are representatives of their companies, and the better they do and the more often they're mentioned and the more often their sponsors are mentioned, the better off for everybody. So I absolutely think this is a great thing to do. I don't think it's necessarily an appropriate thing for the Pro Tour to do. We have our Pro Tour points, and that's how we're going to track how the players do. So question number 4, do you focus on the amount of time someone watches just to toot your own horn? How on earth does this really matter? More people watching means, oh, that's my response. Okay, so how on earth does this really matter? So I think what they're talking about specifically is the number of minutes, the amount of time someone watches. Yeah, so the number of minutes that people watch the live broadcast, which has gone up. I mean, back in 2008 or whatever the year was, our average minute watch time was about 9 minutes. And over the years, it's just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. Back in 16, we were around 31 minutes. In 17, we were on 34 minutes. And so far in 18, we're at 37 minutes. However, we're trending up. The Jonesboro Open, it was just under 40 minutes on average watch time. So hopefully we can keep inching that up and actually get our average up to 40 by the end of the season. And the reason that it matters is because, sure, you can just say we had 5,000 people watch this live broadcast, or like we're doing nowadays, 25,000 people watch. But if 25,000 people watch and they only watch for 5 or 10 minutes, then either they're watching for a little bit of time, and then as soon as a commercial comes on, they're tuning out, or they're not even getting to the commercial. But if we can show people, hey, these people are watching for an average of 40 minutes at a time, they are watching many, many commercials. which in fact is how we pay for everything. So the amount of time that people watch is critical. It's number one, it shows that people like what we're broadcasting. And number two, it shows that people are actually watching the ads during the live broadcast, which is how everything gets paid for and how we can grow the sport. So sure, it's fun to toot our horn and say people are liking what we're doing. But in reality, what we're actually doing is we're telling the partners and the advertisers, hey, people are watching your ads and they care about who you are. So I don't remember what question we're on, maybe 5 or 6. I think you should have a men's tent. No question, just a comment. I went ahead and pretended that that was a question. And my reply is thus. I said, well, you actually did ask a question, and I'll return by saying, I think we should have equal coverage of the men's and women's divisions. And there's a reason that we don't. And I'm not sure that all of us are really comfortable with that reason. And I can put together, and I have put forward, an economic reason, which is that currently the men's coverage is watched by more people than the women's coverage. The uncomfortable aspect it comes when you start talking about society and what our norms are, and what the roles of the genders are in our society, and it starts getting a little genuinely uncomfortable to talk about. So what I want to do is I want to just, rather than saying, why do we have a women's tent? I want to say, why don't we have equal coverage of everybody? If we had equal coverage of everybody, I'd be 100% let's get rid of the women's tent. But in reality, basically for the last 40 years, our sport has not done a great job of telling women, we want you to play the sport with us. And because of that, we have less than 10% of our player base is women. So of the 2.5 million people that are playing, 250,000 of those people are women. If that number was just 30%, so high school soccer, 40% of the participants are women or girls. In golf, 20 to 30% of the people that play golf are women. In tennis, 40% of the people that play tennis are women. If we had just 30% of the people that played disc golf at this point were women, we would have 500,000 more people playing, more women playing. Instead of having 2.5 million, we would have 3 million people playing the sport. Those 500,000 people, 500,000 women that are not playing, are the reason that we have the women's tent. So that's why we have a women's tent, because we have a whole bunch of things that we're doing this year for the women. We're taking more pictures of them. We have more videos that we're showing of the women. We're showing, we have the women on the leaderboard, and a bunch of other things. I think there's a list of 6 or 7 things. And the women's tent is just one aspect of that. So along with all of these other things, basically what we're doing is we're telling the women we want them to play the game. Come play this sport. It's very fun, and we want you here. So, this question was great because it reminded me of, who is this? I don't remember the person's name. I think it was David Moser sent me this reply. I had asked Addie Maxwell. I apologize. I'm going off on a little tangent, so just stick with me here. I had asked Addie Maxwell how we would feel if ESPN came to the sport of Ultimate and said they'd like to try covering the sport, but only the women's field until coverage proves successful. I was gender flipping there, and it's a good way to look at how we feel about things and how we, like, the real reasons that we're doing things. And David said, I think Addie gave a fine answer, but she could have done more. And I'm going to read to you. I'm just going to read this answer because I think it says a lot about why we have a women's tent. And then I'll get off this topic for now. It says, instead, suppose ESPN came to the governing body of gymnastics and said, people like watching gymnastics during the Olympics, so we're going to put it on our channel on Sunday afternoons. This is ESPN talking. Now, you've got a 12-year-old son who fell in love with gymnastics during the last Olympics. He was enamored by the strength and balance of those guys on the pommel horse and the rings and the horizontal bars and the parkour-esque floor exercise. He talked you into paying for gymnastics lessons and has been attending for a few weeks now. Saturday, you two sit down to watch ESPN, and you watch the ladies perform the vault, spin around on the uneven bars, and dance across the balance beam. And then the show is over. No pommel horse, no rings, no balance bars, no men at all. I should say no parallel bars, no men at all. Your son was so excited to watch what was possible for other people like him, but his division of the sport was ignored entirely. You do some research and find that ESPN decided that the risk of covering gymnastics at all was fairly high, so they only wanted to cover the most popular division until they see if it succeeds. That night, you ask your son if he's ready to go to gymnastics practice, and instead of being excited like usual and motivated by watching the men perform in the Olympics at the highest level, he just says, I guess. Next week at school, he's with a group of friends and he mentions his gymnastics practice. The other boys visualize the only kind of gymnastics they've ever seen, girls jumping around in leotards. They tease him about it. And he would like to say, no, it's really awesome. Just watch the guys on ESPN on Saturday, but he can't because they're not filmed. He gets teased and wearing a leotard with the girls all week. And when it's time to go to practice, he says in a small voice to his dad, I don't want to go anymore. Now, bring it back around to disc golf. A young woman is with her friends and mentions disc golf. They look at her funny, but she pulls out her iPad and shows them Paige throwing a 550-foot crush over water, then hitting one of those crazy 60-foot putts. She then shows them Katrina laying down a sick roller that curls up around the basket. She then shows them Sarah throwing a flex forehand between two trees and around another one to park the hole for a birdie. Those girls are all like, wow. And at least one of them says, I got to try this. Suppose women's coverage doesn't exist, so she has to show them those same shots being thrown by Simon, Paul, and Nico. Those girls will still say, wow, but not one of them pictures themselves doing it. And all of the people, there's 500,000 people that have never pictured themselves being the people succeeding and having fun playing disc golf. And those women are playing other sports. And that's the reason that we have a women's tent. And that's the reason that this whole conversation really matters. I recognize, or Addie should have told me, according to David, but it is true. We recognize the economics and logistics of filming FPO are the biggest challenge. It's the economics and the logistics. We believe the desire to cover the women is there. That's 100% true. I just think it's important to provide good examples of why it is important, so the motivation to do so doesn't wither and have FPO coverage and FPO participation get left behind. I think he summed it up beautifully. That's exactly it. We all have the same goals. We're working really hard to get the money. We're working really hard to put the logistics in place to make it happen. And it is absolutely one of our focuses, and it is one of the reasons that we have a women's tent. So sorry for the long side road there, but David wrote a really nice piece, and I thought it was really well done, so I wanted to include it. And on another note there, one thing that we would like to do, and we've started doing this, and hopefully we'll get to have everything completed before San Francisco. We want to make highlight videos of the men and the women, but unlike last year, this year we have a lot of footage of the women that we never had last year. And a huge shout out to Terry Miller as a thank you, because he's the reason that we have all of this extra women's footage, him and his crew. So I'm going to put together a highlight videos of all of the greatest shots by all of these women. Maybe a piece just about Sarah Hokum's great shots, and maybe a piece just about Jennifer Allen's great shots, and Katrina Allen's great shots, and Sarah Hokum's great shots, and maybe another piece with all of the women and all of the other women and all of their great shots. And I want to put out highlight videos so we can share how great these women are with other women who we want to bring into the sport. So the one thing that I'm going to ask, though, because there's two things that make all this possible: economics and logistics. We have the logistics down for these 5 videos. The question I will ask of you and anybody that you know who owns a business or wants to be supportive, Can you help us publish these videos? We can do it anyway, but we want to start bringing, we want to have the FPO division help bring in some money so we can help spread that money out and do more for the FPO division. So I'm going to put out these 5 videos. I would like to ask if anybody's interested, $100, and you can present one of these videos. They're going to be 2 to 4 minute clips. We'll put them on our social pages, Facebook and YouTube, and we'll share the original videos with you so you can do the same. We'll include your logo at the beginning with a presented by. We'll include your logo as a bug in the corner during the entire video, as well as an outro with your logo as well. And I'll also throw in a 5-second call to action. In between some hot putts, we'll have your logo pop up, say, supported, proud to support so-and-so, or go to our website for 5% off, or whatever you want to say. You get a 5-second message during the video as well. $100. So if you're interested, just email me, steven@dgpt.com. And if you're willing to spend more than $100, let me know that and say, I'll give you $1,000 and I want to do all 5. That'll be awesome. So first come, first serve, email me, let me know, and we'll make it happen. And we'll continue to expand the women's coverage, and we'll go ahead and put some men's coverage out there every once in a while too. So I'm gonna go out of order here. So the next topic, while I'm there asking for money, I'm gonna go ahead and toot our horn a little bit more. We are absolutely getting more and more eyeballs to the sport, and we just published a new article on our blog/news feed called that says "Eyeballs Gotten, Partners Wanted." So we've got a little bit of a break. We've got about a little over a month before the San Francisco Open. So if you or anybody you know would like to become a partner with the Pro Tour, this is the perfect time. As the article starts out, it says 3 events into the 2018 season, one thing is certain: people are watching disc golf. We just published an article called Let It Grow, Let It Grow, Let It Grow that touted all of the amazing numbers. Everything is up. Huge thanks to Smashbox, huge thanks to UDisc, huge thanks to the PDGA. We are all working together, pushing forward, and the live broadcast numbers are showing that you, the viewers, are appreciative. So thank you very much for that. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 7 different areas that we have an opportunity to get new partners on board. And actually, it's funny because I'm reading this in our blog and news, and the first thing is event articles and recap partner. So if you want to help out our blog, if you want to sponsor our blog, put your name and lights right here on every article. There's an opportunity to do that. You could be a podcast partner. You could advertise in this podcast. We can have up to 2 30-second ads. It's a 1-hour show, so I'm kind of figuring a minute's worth of advertisements is not that bad. So you could advertise in the podcast itself. We actually have 2 podcasts also. So there's another opportunity on the Sunday profiles with Dixon Jowers. Circle Zero partners. So Circle Zero is the show that we start each live broadcast with. Currently, Pro Worlds is sponsoring the profiles section on the Circle Zero show, where we do a player interview. I Fling Plastic and Cahill's Pro Shop are sponsoring Hotspots. Prodigy Course Design is sponsoring Course Cuts with Will Schustrick. Available spots, we have we could make a great shots, so we could just do a highlight show of some of the great shots from the previous day. We have trivia questions that could be presented by somebody. We have raffles. We have fantasy disc golf. We could create an overachiever section for the person who played the most above their rating. We could do basically anything in that Circle Zero show that would fit your brand and what it is, the message that you're trying to get across. So if you're interested, please reach out. My email is Steven, STEVEN @dgpt.com, and we will make this work for you. We're looking for a presenting sponsor for Chase Cards. We have opportunities on site, and then we also have preview and review highlight videos. So lots of different ways that you can get involved if you would like to, or if you know someone that would like to. Things are starting to go really, really well. All of the numbers are up. people are interested, people are watching. This is the time we need to put the iron in the fire because it's hot. I don't quite know the way to word that, but things are hot. And if you want to be a part of the Pro Tour, this is the time to be a part of the Pro Tour. So before I get back to the final question, I'm going to do 2 more quick things. Number one, this is Pro Tour talk, so let's go ahead and after 3 events, let's talk about who's winning the Pro Tour points. Currently, Ricky Wysocki, 213 points. Paul Macbeth, Nate Sexton, and Garrett Gurthey round out the top 4. And James Conrad, Jeremy Coling, Eric Oakley, and Johnny McRae round out the top 8. Interestingly, all of them have played all 3 events. And in the top 15, only 2 players are in the top 15 that have only played 2 events. And those 2 players are Eagle and Simon. So that's just a little interesting tidbit. And on the women's side, not surprisingly, Paige Pierce is in first with 3 first places. Sarah Hokum, Lisa Fakis, and Jessica Weiss round out the top 4. And Katrina Allen, Rebecca Cox, Ellen Widboom, and Jennifer Allen round out the top 8. Madison Walker and Kona Panis 9 and 10. So, and actually similarly to the men's side, the top 7 women have played in all of the events. Jennifer Allen, Madison Walker, and Kona Panis have only played 2 events, and that's part of the reason that they're 8th, 9th, 10th. You do get to drop 1 event, so that is something that, like, you obviously Jennifer, Madison, and Kona will be. Actually, I'm sorry, you dropped 2 events. They'll be dropping this event that they didn't play. So the numbers will tighten up once the drops start factoring in. And the last question of the day, and then we will close out this Pro Tour talk. And I appreciate your patience with me as I run through the AMA part. And please keep asking these questions. These questions are great. dgpt.com/AMA. Go ahead and ask anything you want about the Pro Tour, and we will, if we don't know the answers, we'll bring some people on and have a conversation in a future episode. Otherwise, I'll just spout out what I believe the answers are, and we can move along. The last question, I saved this one for last because it's really fun. You touch on a lot of topics, but you don't seem to actually do anything. What has come of the conversations that you have had with the players? So this is a great question. Are we just talking and spinning our wheels here, or are we actually doing stuff? And so I wanted to run through our last episode, all of the episodes that we've had, and see what has in fact come of these. And I think some of these, maybe we are spinning our wheels, but some things actually do happen. So we talked with AJ Risley and Holly Finley about tee times. What came of that was an agreement that we understand the need for feature cards, and we understand that outside of feature cards, we think it should be, we should think that the players should be equally distributed. And we've talked to all of the tournament directors of all of the other 6 events that still have yet to happen this season, not counting the Tour Championship. And we have actually come up with a tee time procedure. We've had that tee time procedure approved by the PDGA because it's just a little bit different than what they recommend. And so going forward, we are going to be releasing that tee time policy, and that will be that'll actually occur through all of the rest of the events. So tee times has been done. Wysocki and foot faults, we didn't really talk about anything except for the fact that following the rules actually does matter. Dixon Jowers and I had a nice little debate about it. I don't remember which side of the debate anybody was on, but that's where we all ended up, was we all agree the rules matter. Episode 6 was women's media, where we talked to Addie Maxwell. And obviously there's a lot going on. We actually had a discussion earlier tonight about women's media and how you can help make more women's media happen. Dave Feldberg and Pro Masters. We did have a good conversation with Dave Feldberg, and we actually do have, we released an article. I think we released an article, or maybe it's, oh, you know what? That's actually going out on Sunday. Look for an article on Sunday about Pro Masters where we've put forward a proposal. This is not a policy. This is just a proposal. We're just keeping this idea going. So we have some Pro Masters ideas coming out. Jeremy Colling, we talked to Jeremy Colling about playoffs. I don't think there was anything really decided there. It seemed like the kind of thing we need to investigate much more. And at the MVP Open, we will have a minimum two-hole playoff. And that's we're going to see if we can go ahead and have two people agree to tie. And then once they do, we'll have a two-hole playoff. We'll see how it goes. See if people react positively or negatively. And so that is sort of up in the air, as you say. We talked about par with Matt Kruger and Eric Oakley. That is an open question that is just going to have to sit out there and be open for a while. And then last episode, we went in depth about one particular hole at the Jonesboro Open. And I'd like to keep doing that. I'd like to keep going in depth about one particular hole and start getting a little more in depth about what course design is and what good course design is for men and women and how it's not necessarily the same. And so that's where all of that sits. I'm going to say we're about 50-50 on getting resolutions on stuff that we've talked about on topics. So we do actually do some stuff. Some stuff it takes a little bit longer to cook and get to a point where people agree, or we want to go ahead and try something and see how it works. So that's it for Pro Tour Talk on April 25th. Thank you all very much for watching. The Glass Blown Open starts tomorrow. You can probably watch the live coverage on pdga.com. You can definitely watch live coverage, I'm guessing, on glassblownopen.com, maybe Smashbox TV on YouTube. Please watch. Please tune in. And thank you very much for watching this. Have a great night. Oh, I got to go back to the other thing and turn it off. I'm just staring at my computer. Yep. Goodbye, everybody.